there was a report that came out, a 28-page report about, more findings of 9/11 and what happened. And it kind of painted a picture towards that, Saudi Arabia did have involvement. And, there's this new fight going on between Saudi Arabia and the United States even. You had alluded to our connection to them earlier, but it seems like there might be trouble in paradise between these long time lovers, if you will, of their domination over the world. And I'm just kind of curious if what you know about it and what your thoughts are on it.
Well, first of all, I mean, we know for a fact that 14 out of the 18 alleged terrorists were Saudi nationals. None of them were Afghanis, and none of them were Iraqis, to my knowledge. So obviously, they were involved. And also, you also saw that the day after 9/11, when all flights were prohibited over U.S. airspace, there was exception made for the Saudi royal family. Hundreds of members of the Saudi royal family were flown out of the United States. So these are facts, right? And then it's also a fact that Saudi Arabia is one of the United States' largest creditors. And it's also a fact that the United States' debt has gone up tremendously by fighting all these wars. Because, as I mentioned previously, the bill for the wars goes to the American people. And the loot from the wars go to Blackwater, Dick Cheney, Rumsfeld, Rockefeller, whoever is on the receiving end, right? So these are facts, right? And I mean, there are plenty of examples in history how you get rid of your debt. Well, you just go in and kill your creditors, right? I mean, one of the recent examples was early 90s, where the Soviet Union, when that foiled, they were a huge creditor nation, and they owned every single house, every single flat without a mortgage. They owned every single factory without a mortgage or a loan. They had the largest resources of natural wealth in the world, plenty of space, and some of the best farmlands in the world. And still, these Wall Street banksters, foreign agents, criminal economists came to Russia, convinced the Russian people that they were bankrupt. How can you convince them? I mean, it was crazy. And what they did was they bribed, the members of the Duma. The Duma that's the Russian parliament. They bribed the members of the Duma. They then helped to bankroll, 10, 20 major oligarchs to loot the country. The way they did it was they put all the assets of Russia out on some people's shares. So people have some shares. People didn't know what a share is. You've been living in a communist country for 80 years. You have no idea what an equity in a company is. And then you stop paying them salaries for 3 months. So they didn't have any money. Guess what they're going to do with these shares, right? They're going to sell them for nothing just to get food on the table. Yep. So that way, and then you bankrolled, you lent a lot of money to 10 oligarchs. They went out and bought all these shares in these different Norilsk nickel and different oil companies and what have you not. And that way, basically, all of a sudden, so you had transferred the wealth of the nation to 10 families. Business as usual for the international banksters. They do it in Ecuador, in Argentina, in Brazil. They've done it all over, wherever they've been in, Indonesia, everywhere. So that's business as usual. And then what they did overnight, I believe it was in 92 or 93, they decided that the money was worth nothing. So my wife, who's a Russian, my wife's parents, who had enough money in the bank account to buy a house, next day, it was worthless.
Wow.
So, so it's nothing new that you can go in and loot a country. I'm not sure, it could be that they will kind of get rid of Saudi Arabia because they're a big creditor. It could be that why they're doing it, yeah. But there's also a lot of involvement in in the 9/11 thing, there's a lot of involvement with possibly knowledge of the U.S. government and also of foreign secret services, secret agencies such as Mossad, for example. So there's a lot of other speculation who's involved. It clearly was not a guy in Afghanistan who is in dialysis, who is using a satellite phone to orchestrate this event. Of course not.
I wonder though if even Putin has been threatening. He's been saying, I have evidence of 9/11 and I'm going to release it. And I'm curious if it's just one of these things where the U.S. is trying to get ahead of it, and if they can blame Saudi Arabia, maybe that'll work or something like that. It seems like we're seeing a lot of infighting going on, even between some of these elites. And from what I've heard, even the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers are at each other's necks in some ways. So,
oh really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
So I've heard. I mean, it's internet speculation, but who can say, that this is that kind of stuff that there's no real media that even reports on it. So how will we ever know? I mean, it's just it can only be unsubstantiated sources, I suppose. But as events unfold on the geopolitical scale, you can start seeing that there is evidence towards seeing some of that. There's something going on between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. That the Saudi king, the new Saudi king, wouldn't visit with Barack Obama. He sent his other guy, and he came and he threatened us. That said, if you release those documents, that we are going to basically call up our $700 million of debt that we have of yours. So it's kind of one of those. They seem to be pointing the gun at each other's head and want to just pull. Hopefully not to self-destruct each other, but hopefully to actually self-destruct. And that's what we're hoping. We're hoping that hopefully they kill each other off in a way. I don't know how that'll happen, but it would be great so that we can have our chance to, to take it back. So I think this is really going to be an interesting time period in our history in order to, I guess, in terms of us, the people, the slaves have the chance now to finally take it back and take it over. So, which is great. Bring back our rights and our God-given rights to be free human beings. So.
Yeah, you're right, and that's why we have to wake up people. And the way I try to do it here in Denmark is by doing the opposite of what people recommend me to do. Because people they say two things to me. One, they say to me, Mads, if you make a speech, people are stupid. They only understand one, maximum two things. Obviously, I disagree with that vehemently. I think people have been dumped down by the educational system for sure, but people are incredibly intelligent. So I always try to come up with a lot of facts, a lot of information, and then people can go in and dig deeper in something that might interest them. Yeah. And then the second thing I'm being told, you have to be very polite and don't hurt anybody's feelings. And I say, I just look at the evidence. We have a guy called Niels Harrit, who is definitely top 5, maybe the foremost expert in 9/11. And he's been having lectures all over Denmark for 15 years, and he's doing a great job. But he has this scientific approach, which kind of, we're living in a country of short attention span and a time of one-liners and so on. So what I do instead is I just say, 2 planes, 3 towers. What are you? Stupid?
It's one of those. You're so absolutely right. It's one of those things where you just say to anyone about 9/11, it's like, well, what about the third tower? Come on. Hello.
Yeah, but I don't even want to be polite about it anymore. You guys have had 15 years to look into this. You have 4 million dead Muslims because you are willfully ignorant. You don't want to look into it. I'm sorry. I don't want to be polite to these people anymore. Two planes, 3 towers. I think you go on. 2 planes of aluminum that will crash if they fly into a bird. Have you seen an airplane flying into a bird? It's crashed, Mm-hmm. And they're supposedly being able to demolish a structure that has been built to withstand a crash with an airplane, and they're concrete steel. Come on. And then going down in free fall. I mean, it's never happened before. It will never happen again. And because it can't happen, it's impossible. And then again, the third tower. How did that fall down? It's not even burning. I mean, come on. It's like